Fantastic Four First Steps crashes again at the box office in its third weekend. Disney boss Bob Iger says Marvel's Fantastic Four reboot has successfully launched this important franchise into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The reality is this is another box office loser for Disney.
So, Fantastic Four First Steps has only grossed $11.7 million in its second Friday on the big screen, making a 80% drop from its debut, making this movie officially a financial flop year. Call me old school, but I believe the reason why these movies are flopping is because that nobody wants to see a standalone Marvel movie or an origin story, really. The Marvel Universe has been established. People want to see their favorite characters always interacting with each other.
Numbers are bleak for Disney Marvel's Fantastic Four. In fact, now that we have 3 weekends worth of data, this is a movie that is going to struggle to hit $500 million. I think it'll do it. I think it'll get there, probably just a little bit above, but it is not guaranteed. It is now going to be a struggle for this movie to get to 500.
Brand Marvel used to sell tickets in and of itself. It almost didn't matter what the movie was. People were interested because they were so bought into the MCU. And in particular, late into phase 3, it was just people trusted they were going to get a good movie. Or
this is after Bob Iger, just like he did for Thunderbolts when he talked about, oh my gosh, we're so happy with the success of Thunderbolts, blah, blah, blah. This is after Bob Iger does Damage Control, basically lies to everybody and talks about what a successful start to a franchise, a new franchise in the MCU that this is.
Marvel's can't-miss launch suddenly looked very missable. Second Friday slid to roughly $11.7 million, about an 80% drop, and by the third weekend, the floor kept lowering.
It's like we see with every single Marvel movie released. The big lead up, the excitement, the hype that the mainstream media desperately tries to generate. Then the early access screenings come out and they tell you it's the best thing ever. Then the reviews come out. Then the opening weekend happens. And even when the opening weekend is weak, like it was with Fantastic Four First Steps, they tell you, oh my gosh, everybody, Marvel's back, watch out.
Opening night adjectives still echoed on socials, but the box office answered louder. The logo that used to move crowds now raised eyebrows. Fans didn't riot, they drifted. And drift is deadlier than outrage, because drift means people stop texting, go tonight. This didn't start at the ticket counter. It started at the promise. The first family would be the keystone of a new era. Rights restored, prestige cast, a budget with no ceiling, teasers engineered for breakdown channels, trade headlines whispering historic. It felt inevitable, but inevitability sells the first ticket. It doesn't sell the second.
So here's the piece from Deadline magazine, Fantastic Four First Steps, $40 million second frame. Just to remind you, it wasn't even a week ago that Deadline magazine was projecting a $48 million second weekend, a 60% drop from the first weekend. And then over the next few days after that, it became a 45 to 47.
Today's crowd wants friction, friendship, and fallout with characters who collide right now. Come back in 2 years for the payoff. Doesn't play like it used to. On paper, a domestic opening near $116 million can headline a victory lap. In practice, gravity arrived on schedule. Projections softened fast. That second Friday crater told the whole story.
And it always ends up happening this way, where the second weekend falls off a cliff, and that is what we saw for Fantastic Four. But would it rebound in its third weekend? Well, of course it didn't.
You can smooth Sunday estimates. You can't erase a plunge that deep. Translation, the Thursday diehards didn't convince anyone to follow. Why didn't the momentum travel? Because nice is fatal. The chatter sounded polite, slick visuals, a couple standout performances, a few fun beats, and then the 7 words that end tentpoles. I'll watch it when it streams. That's origin fatigue. Families weighed vibe against brighter options. Some chose dinosaurs, others a bluer cape, and repeat viewings never materialized. You can weather a fight. You can't survive indifference. When a film feels optional by Monday, weekend 3 turns into a slide, not a platform. Cue the first reflex, blame the calendar. Yes, there was a horror hit. Yes, a teen crowd pleaser ate matinees. Yes, another superhero was still gliding weeks later. But lanes matter. Horror diehards don't trade jump scares for stretchy science. Teen date nights don't stampede to cosmic radiation. Meanwhile, the superhero rival posted measured, sane, week-to-week dips. If competition were the villain, everyone would bleed together. They didn't. That isn't scheduling, it's rejection from your own core. And rejection gets harsher when the real costs come due. A production north of $200 million, plus a 9-figure marketing push, means break-even lives near the $600 million neighborhood after exhibitor cuts and softer international returns. Scraping toward $500 million might soothe headlines. It doesn't please a P&L or fuel the next chapter.
Like, Fantastic Four is a good movie, but it's nowhere near as fun as Jurassic World and Superman. So I don't know if families, like if kids like Superman or Jurassic World more, maybe that's it. I'm kind of trying to think of a reason, because the reviews are great. People are giving it high praise online. I personally like Superman better, but I mean, I like Fantastic Four. So yeah, I'm surprised they had that much of a dip. Like 65% is that's substantial.
This wasn't meant to be fine. It was supposed to light the runway to the next crossover. Instead, it joined the soft landing club. The domino machine that once felt automatic began to rattle. Momentum built the MCU. Not CGI, not cameos. Momentum. The feeling that every chapter mattered tomorrow morning. Once that feeling erodes, after a few soft landings, a few shows people finish out of duty, a few films that provoke shrugs instead of debates, the audience stops pre-ordering Friday and starts waiting for Tuesday. That's the crisis. Not fatigue with heroes, fatigue with homework. Studios can feel when trust thins, which is why the panic levers come out. Louder trailers, legacy faces, portal-packed cameos, whispered mega pairings designed to sell Thursday nights on name recognition alone. These are accelerants. They burn hot and quick. They spike pre-sales. They don't rebuild the engine. You can rent attention. You cannot rent momentum. The irony is that this team should be a momentum machine. The Fantastic Four aren't 4 solo origin stories stapled together. They're a pressure cooker. Reed's math versus his heart. Sue's composure versus her breaking point. Johnny's love of applause versus the cost of growing up. Ben's guilt versus his right to hope in public. The movie hit a few of those notes. It needed to live there. Audiences rewatch when the argument at the kitchen table hurts more than the explosion outside the window. They evangelize when a quiet decision at minute 90 lands like truth. Industry language prefers competitive marketplace, but the metric that matters is the trust index. You can sense it in the choices that follow the wobble, calendar shuffles denting carefully planned rollouts, rewrites chasing sentiment, creative differences, statements arriving right after tracking cools. There are rumblings of mega pairings that could sell t-shirts in their sleep and contingency thinking for the next Avengers outing. Some of that will steady the ship for a quarter. None of it steers the ship for a decade. And that's the nod around the next crossover. Team-up films are amplifiers. They magnify energy already in the system. They don't manufacture it from zero. If the runway into a team-up is paved with question marks, the team-up becomes a referendum no one asked for. Do we still care? Worse, what happens if a friendly neighbor outgrosses your crown jewel again? Box office isn't morality, but perception is oxygen. The brand built its identity on inevitability. It can't afford to look optional. So what would a real course correction look like? Something sturdier than a cameo fog machine. Fewer projects so each can breathe. Budgets matched to story, not spreadsheets. Villains who trap heroes in moral corners, not just cosmic diagrams. Payoffs that feel earned instead of engineered. For this family, that means Reed choosing people over proof and paying a price. Sue's steadiness cracking and reforging stronger. Johnny learning the difference between attention and respect. Ben making one costly choice for a friend and spending a whole film making it right. Treat the tag as punctuation, not a lifeline. If the ending lands in the gut, you don't need the tease to carry the night. There's a gentler truth hiding inside the autopsy. Audiences want to fall back in love with this universe. They like being part of a crowd that gasps together. They like pinning theories to a corkboard and arguing with friends. They like the feeling that the screen keeps breathing after the lights come up. The machine once provided that by habit, now it has to earn it on purpose. Maybe that's why the second Friday stung. Not because it was a number, but because it felt avoidable. You can't keep asking people to clap for engineering when what they want is confession. You can't keep promising game-changing when the game barely changes. The cape and the logo still mean something to millions. They just need to mean something specific again. If this film is remembered kindly, it will be as the bruise that told the truth. The campaign was glossy, the premiere was loud, the fall was plain as daylight. It didn't kill a franchise, it clarified a choice. Keep stacking announcements until the calendar buckles, or slow down, swing sharper, and make one film so undeniable that Weekend 3 becomes a victory lap instead of a postmortem. Not louder, truer, not bigger, stickier, less helium, more oxygen. Because the fix isn't mystical, it's human. Let the family feel like a family first and a brand second. Let victories cost, let losses leave marks. Let the audience walk out arguing about a decision instead of a cameo. Do that once, and the trend line bends. Do it twice, and the trust index rises. Do it 3 times, and the logo starts to feel inevitable again. Not because the marketing says so, but because people do. Until then, that second Friday number hangs in the air like a flare, not a tombstone, a warning light. Stop calling gravity competition. Start delivering a story people can't afford to miss. Hype can open the door. Only heart invites them back inside.